When it comes to abundance in life, it's okay to change your definition. Abundance can mean different things to you at different points in your life, and it's going to be shaded by your experiences in what you go through. And that's okay. That's actually great. Stop waiting for life to be perfect before you let yourself feel happiness, before you let yourself feel love.
Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Sylvis, ready to unlock the keys to a life of true abundance. We're diving into everything from financial freedom and optimal health to meaningful relationships, geographic freedom, and everything in between. It's about creating a life rich in experiences, purpose, and joy. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Secrets to Abundant Living podcast community. I got a special one for you today. My name is Amy Sylvis. I'm your host. And of course, I'm the founder and CEO of Sylvis Capital. We're so excited to welcome you to another guest episode today. Gosh, I was introduced to Tara Akins by Dr. Abshar. You all may remember he was a guest on the podcast a couple months ago, one of my own personal cystic fibrosis physicians. And as I'm sure you all will agree, good people know good people. And he introduced me to this amazing, lovely woman here today that I'm really excited to dive into for you all to hear her story. You're going to be really happy that you stuck around for this one. So without further ado, friend, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here.
I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about you. I know we've got a while here to kind of pull on some aspects of your story, but give us a little bit of a high-level introduction of who you are and anything you feel comfortable sharing, please.
Sure, of course. So, hi, guys. My name is Tara. I am a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse practitioner for a little over 2 decades, so for a little while in healthcare. I grew up originally from Tennessee. So if you hear the Southern accent here and there on some words, that's where that's coming from.
We love it.
Even though I'm recording from San Diego, been in San Diego for close to 2 decades. So it's also home as well. I have 2 kids, a partner. I've been mainly in my career, I've been in internal medicine prior to coming to UCSD and transplant in 2015. So I've been in lung transplant since 2015 here at UC San Diego Health, and couldn't be happier. Work with Dr. Abshar, who you mentioned earlier, amazing medical director, amazing physician and person. So I'm just really happy to be here and, share the stage with you and have this discussion.
Great. Wow. Growing up in Tennessee, I love the drawl. I love the, if that comes out. So I'm going to see if I can bring that out of you because I think it's so endearing. But gosh, to be at such a prestigious medical center working in such life-changing area of medicine. I mean, all medicine is incredibly impactful, but gosh, to meet people at some of the most difficult times in their life doing some of the best work science has to offer, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is just so impressive on my end. What brought you into that area of medicine, if you don't mind me asking?
No, of course. And you're right. Transplant really is transformative medicine at its finest, but it's definitely complex. We meet people, as you said, when they're in end-stage lung disease, this is the end of the line.
Yeah.
We're meeting people at their worst and at their sickest.
Right.
And, I kind of happened into transplant. I wouldn't want to say it just happened, but it did just kind of naturally evolve that way. I was looking at moving from internal medicine. I was really happy, but I wanted to kind of challenge myself and grow. And when I was looking to make that move away from primary care, the opportunity at UCSD came across my desk. And quite honestly, I didn't think they'd give a second look because I didn't have previous transplant experience. And as you likely know, transplant's a really small community. So it's hard. You're not going to get folks that have a lot of transplant experience because it's a very subspecialty of the medical, system.
Yeah.
So I interviewed, I met the team, I got the job, and then, really I fell in love with it. So it happened by happenstance, but it really was the best fit. And it was one of those unexpected gifts you don't know you need until you get it. And so it was a beautiful amalgamation of things. So once I really got here at UC San Diego, and such a prestigious institution, academic medical center, top of the line research, cutting edge things. So I was already happy to be here at UCSD. And then serving this particular client population. At the time when I first was hired, I was doing transplant, but also a little bit of advanced lung disease, which those folks are also very sick in stage lung disease. They may be transplant candidates, they may not.
Right.
So, I was seeing the sickest of the sick folks, and meeting them, like you said, meeting them where they are is incredibly important. And you have to respect where they are. And then also, when somebody comes to you and they're that ill, the amount of trust that they have in you,
Mm.
that they put in you, I humbly like it humbles you. It humbles me every single time, and I don't take that for granted. So it really was just meant to be, I think, with transplant and myself. But that's how I got to UC San Diego Health. So
Amazing. Well, and I probably should have backed up and asked a bit more about your journey to becoming a nurse practitioner. And some folks might not really even understand what a nurse practitioner is. Being a professional patient, myself living with cystic fibrosis, and then also working in biotech, I've got a bit of an understanding, and of course, just tremendous respect. I tell everyone living with cystic fibrosis is really difficult. But my goodness, the angels on earth that I've met in nurses, medical assistants, NPs, PAs, physicians, the whole healthcare system. I mean, just the best of the best people truly I've ever met. I would love to hear what got you in this kind of vocation to begin with, because it's not just something I would imagine you just sign up for. I mean, it's truly a calling. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like it's more than just, oh, it's my occupation, right?
Oh, 100%. I always joke with folks kind of off the cuff that there's no amount of money in the world that is worth if you don't love what you do and
Right.
it's not a calling,
Yeah.
eventually you're going to burn out and get out of the profession. So for me, yes, it very much a calling. I knew even as a kid that I wanted to do something, sounds cheesy, but I wanted to do something to help people, make a difference in the world, take care of folks. That's, idea of taking care of people and helping to make their life better has kind of been, even when I was younger, ingrained in me. And so I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. I just didn't know until I got a little older exactly what that was going to look like. So I went to the University of Tennessee is where I did my, undergraduate and graduate degrees in nursing. And really I was finishing my bachelor's in nursing and, after that working as an RN there in Knoxville on the oncology floor. That's my inpatient experiences with oncology. And so, I knew that I wanted to have more independence and be able to treat patients and think outside the box. So it was a natural progression to get my master's and, be I'm boarded as a family nurse practitioner. So
Okay.
I technically, can see babies to older folks. But that's really, I fell in love with healthcare. I fell in love with nursing. I fell in love with being able to make a difference. So once, I passed my boards, it was shortly thereafter I moved from Tennessee to California. So I've really been a nurse practitioner all my adult life in California.
Incredible. What a journey. And I'm sure it's been perfectly smooth, right?
Oh,
Just straight line up and to the right. Life has always been fantastic, personally and professionally, right? Has
oh,
that been, you've had that unique experience?
oh yes, very unique. Yeah, everything's just great. Smooth like butter. Just, no bumps in the road, no setbacks, no unexpected little surprises or gifts that life gives you. Yeah. I also joke I love to meet folks that have no childhood trauma or anything else because I am happy that they had a great life. It's
Yes,
just not the norm. That's more the exception to the rule. So
truly, truly. Well,
definitely.
let's pull on this thread of what abundance
Sure.
means to you. It feels a little silly asking given, all of the great background that you just gave us, but I would love to hear your perspective of what that looks like in your life and how you define that.
Of course. I mean, I think I'll have to answer it in two parts if I'm honest. I think abundance really, I think prior to my cancer diagnosis, I had a different definition of abundance, and abundance by definition is just, having an excess of things. So, well, it could be material things, love, whatever, an excess of everything.
Yeah.
So for me, that looked like, I was doing really well in my career and had great productivity and, I had control over my life and where it was going. And, you know, I had what I needed to live in comfortably. So it was more focused on that. I would say after I got sick, after I kind of got flipped from being a caregiver and a provider to the patient on the other side of the spectrum, I had to redefine abundance,
Mm.
So from my perspective, I would say that my redefinition involves more relationships and for me, emotional regulation and, you know, just feeling good enough to have a great day and to be able to do things in that day, to have dinner with family, to spend some time with friends and feel well enough to do that. It's just the compassion that other people showed me during that time too. So, abundance kind of took a little bit of a different turn after I went through that.
Can't even imagine. That is, a cancer diagnosis will flip anyone's life upside down. Being in the healthcare profession, and then
Mhm.
you mentioned from being a caregiver to needing care. I can't imagine what a different world that must have kind of opened up for you. Can we rewind if you're comfortable sharing a bit about your cancer diagnosis and what that was like?
Absolutely. So, yes, so I'll give you some background. A few months previous to my cancer diagnosis, I, was feeling okay. I'd had a physical with my primary, labs were great, everything looked good. Fast forward maybe 2, 3 months from that physical, I started feeling more tired, just not feeling quite right. But again, I was taking call, I was working a ton, so I had in my mind, very logical reasons as to why I was feeling off, right?
Mm.
I'm not exercising as much, I've gained a little weight. It was just any number of things I'd be like, "Ah, that's probably why I'm just feeling a little off."
Yeah.
So I was on call one night, the beeper, is like blaring at 2 in the morning, so I roll over real quick to hit it so it, doesn't wake the entire house up. And it felt like somebody stuck a hot poker in my back. And I thought, oh, dang, I just kind of, twisted my back wrong. Maybe I've got a little slip disc or it's just hitting a nerve back there because it was like immediate pain.
Wow.
So I did all the normal, acupuncture, using heat ice, like ibuprofen, the regular. It seemed to get better until it didn't. And then it got really worse. And so, really worse, I'd say over the course of the following 6 weeks, it got to the point where I couldn't really move laterally. I had to push myself up out of a chair because my back was so bad. And I was starting to get a numb, like right leg, numbness tingles. So, took myself to the ED just because I couldn't take it anymore and I just wanted a scan. And so this is where I'd say, like they did a great job at the ED. They were really, really wonderful because I, went in there and I know as a provider, I was like, I don't need meds. I don't need anything. I don't need you to give me anything. I just
Right.
need you to scan me because something's not right with my
Yeah.
back. And they said, "Well, Tara, it's probably gonna be normal, right?" And I said, "I know, but can you just humor me because I can't take the pain anymore."
Good for you.
So, it was a nurse practitioner. I joke, I ruined her night that night, I'm pretty sure, because she was like, "Okay, I'll order a CAT scan, no problem. You'll have it done. Hang out in the lobby, and then we'll call you back." And Amy, I'll tell you, I've had to deliver bad news to patients before, and so when they called me back and I'm just sitting in the room, when she turned around with a copy of the CT scan in her hands, like instant stomach drop to the floor because just the look on her face, I know I've had that look on my face before.
Oh,
So I already knew it was bad. And then she put the scan in my hands and basically said, "Look, you've got lytic lesions everywhere in your bony skeleton." And, lytic lesions typically are like little holes in the bones, right? That it's from cancer. You just don't know what cancer, but it's generally from cancer. So I remember just looking at the scan and going, "There's no way they mixed this up with somebody else. I mean, there's no way this is my scan. You've got to be kidding me." So I was in shock.
I
They
bet.
then, they called my primary care physician at the time. She asked them, "Please, get some labs and get a CT scan of her chest before you discharge her so that I know what we're dealing with." More good news there, which is why I say that nurse practitioner, I pretty much probably ruined her shift. She had to come back and tell me, "You're an acute kidney failure. We have to admit you're anemic." So, so literally, I would say, I literally just kept thinking, I'm just gonna just let me fall asleep in this bed. I'll just wake up and this will all be a really lucid dream because there's no way that this could be happening. I was 39 years old. I had been healthy my whole life. I now like I'm an acute kidney failure. I'm almost at the needing dialysis. It was that bad. And it just all seemingly came out of the blue, on the heels of some back pain. So I was admitted for a couple of weeks. So I split 1 week at a hospital in North County, and then my second week down here at UC San Diego at Jacobs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I felt like a pincushion. I had a million and one tests, procedures, biopsies, port placements, and then they found out. I'm really thankful for it. I had a soft tissue tumor in my lower spine, which is what was causing all the pain and the numbness down my leg from the multiple myeloma, and that was ultimately the diagnosis they gave me. So I'm thankful every day for that pain because, quite honestly, if I had not been in so much pain, my diagnosis would have gotten delayed because I would have just kept making excuses for the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
I just kept saying, I just need to take a little time off work, like maybe just a 2-week vacation, right? I just
Yeah.
need to recharge and then I'll feel better.
Right.
There was no amount of recharging that was going to fix
No.
that situation.
Wow.
So I'm thankful for the pain. I'm thankful for the mask because that's really what got me in and got my diagnosis so that I could, start really aggressive treatment.
My goodness. Wow. And anyone who's been a woman of a certain age in her late 30s, early 40s, I mean, there's lots of stuff that goes on that feels a little haywire anyway. So easy to excuse, just as you said, yeah, you're a hardworking person in the medical profession. And I can't imagine, had you not had that pain, like you said, you wouldn't have received that diagnosis at the time. All I can think of is, I've got the patient perspective. I've never been a healthcare provider,
Sure.
but just what that must have been like knowing what like you mentioned, I'm sure I ruined that nurse's
Yeah.
her shift of like, no one would think that, you received this awful diagnosis, yet you commented twice about how she must be feeling. So holding those two lenses as the patient and also being a provider, yeah, I can imagine just maybe the layers of how that added to your experience going through cancer treatment. I almost wonder, did you ever feel that you kind of knew too much, or you had too much insight? I don't know, just kind of random thought there.
Yes. No, not a random thought at all. There have been multiple times over those courses of years when I was doing pretty aggressive treatments that I thought the same thing.
Mm.
Like going into my bone marrow transplant, really, I said actually to my oncologist, I wish I didn't know all the things that I know because I was, I will just be honest, I was incredibly anxious because I'm thinking on all the exceptions that I've seen, all the one offs. Am I going to end up in the ICU on dialysis? Is something going to go really wrong? So I think in that way, in certain instances, yes, I wish I knew less. In other instances, though, I mean, having a higher healthcare literacy, I think understanding made things less scary. So it's a real weird, like, fine line to walk, right?
Yeah.
So like with transplant, we always walk the line of infection and rejection. It's like a tightrope. And
Oh,
so I kind of would liken it to that. It was very much a tightrope between the two. So I knew too much in some instances, and then knowing too much was good in others.
yeah.
So yeah, it depended on the circumstances. But I will say, going from me always taking care of people, not just professionally, but personally, my entire life. So going from that caregiver role in many aspects to then being in the role where other people are taking care of me and I'm vulnerable and I'm
Mm.
dependent on that definitely was quite a shift.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Tell us more, if you don't mind. You mentioned you were in the
Sure.
hospital for 2 weeks. I would imagine so much of your life was turned upside down as a partner, as a parent, that you professionally, you mentioned personally that shift. Yeah. What did those next few weeks, months, it sounds like even years, look like on that journey?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the first 2 weeks, the very initial 2 weeks I was hospitalized, really, when I look back on it now, I really was just in a state of survival.
Yep.
So, it still felt surreal. It didn't really feel like my life. I was going through the motions and I'm admitted. And yes, I'm having a million things done to me, but I guess it was just so fast and so quick. And all of the providers, they took great care of me. So everyone from the medical assistants to the nurses to the advanced practice providers, the attendings, like I had the best care and the best team around me, but everything was really rushed, right? They needed to get me, with multiple myeloma, I'll back up and not to get too technical for the audience, but, it can make abnormal proteins called light chains. And so essentially, you can start to get kidney damage and other things, other organ damage
Ah,
around 5,000, if you will, right, give or take. When I was diagnosed, my light chains were close to 60,000. So they were super, super high, and scarred my kidneys pretty badly. And so, I just was in survival mode and doing everything that they were saying. Well, we need to do this biopsy. We need to do this. And I was just like, okay, sure.
yeah.
Make me NTO again. I haven't eaten for 2 days. I joked I lived in IR for in interventional radiology the first week because it was like, I really felt like a pincushion. And I'll share, but like with the podcast and your themes, like with abundance in living, if you don't mind, I'll share one
Please.
really beautiful moment that happened that first week.
Yeah.
So, previous to coming to UC San Diego, I mentioned I was in internal medicine.
Yeah.
So I took care of a lot of healthcare providers in my previous life before transplant. And so I was really nervous. I'd not had any surgeries in my adult life. I had tonsils out when I was 3. I don't remember that. Outside of that, I'd been really lucky. I hadn't had chronic illnesses. I had not had any surgeries. So when they were talking about putting a port in, which is not a big surgery, and they will do it most places under moderate sedation,
Yeah.
they were going to be kind enough to knock me out for it, which I appreciated.
Nice. Yeah.
But I was really nervous. My
Course.
mom and they have really bad reactions with anesthesia. I had not had to have any kind of anesthesia before. So I was worried maybe I will have it back again, but too much knowledge is not good sometimes. What
Again.
if I have a reaction? What if, something bad happens? I was just a nervous wreck. So I'm down in interventional radiology. It's, freezing down there, which I usually love, but it's just cold. I'm hanging out in the room, nervous with myself. The anesthesiologist comes in and I realize I know her. And so she had her head down, was looking at the chart, is about halfway through just asking, the usual questions. And I could see the recognition because she's looking at the name and then she looks up and looks at me. She looks at the chart again. She looks back at me again and she's like, Tara, what are you doing here? And I'm like, correct, my friend. What am I doing here?
Yes.
Nothing good, I can assure you.
Oh,
And
gosh.
and then she goes on as we talked a little bit, caught back up. And then the funny part, Amy, is that she then starts saying, oh, you know what? I need to get in and go back and get my annual. I'm really overdue for my labs. I know I didn't call the office. So it was kind of a little flash of normalcy, right?
Truly.
And of course, then I completely come out of myself and my anxiety. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You shouldn't skip on your mammo. You should make sure you get your labs done. Like we're having a full on mini consult in the middle of my consult.
Yes.
So I'm feeling already more settled because I'm
Yeah.
like, how wonderful. Like I know her. I trust her. This is going to be okay.
Yes.
And then I can't make it up. Then 2 of the nurses that are going to be in the procedure room, also former patients of mine.
Oh,
So is like, I really
goosebumps.
just, some
Oh.
goosebumps that day. I
Oh.
really was just like, you know what? They were my angels, really,
Oh.
because the last words
Yep.
they told me before they put me under was, don't worry. You've taken such good care of us all these years, Tara. We got you. You're going to be fine.
Oh.
Don't even sweat it, basically. And so
Wow.
it was like, it was literally the sweetest thing, but
Yeah.
it was definitely something I needed because,
Oh.
I was really trying to power through for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know what your experience is, but I
Mm.
think anybody with chronic diseases, sometimes, whether it's cancer, whether it's CF, whether it's something else, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I'll just do things for other people, even if I'm not feeling my best, right?
Mm.
Even if I'm really strapped for time or energy, I'm going to show up for folks. And so, yeah, it was nice to have people show up for me and to be able to allow that because I'm not typically historically great at accepting help because I want to
Yep.
be really independent, right? And
Of
take care of
course.
things. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. So that was a real learning opportunity for me to
Oh.
realize, hey, you know what? It's okay to let other people get you. Like they said, I got you, Tara. It's okay to, do that.
Wow. Oh
So
my gosh. Anyone who's been through any sort of medical anxiety, I'm sure can imagine if people that they knew, showed up for them and told you, it's going to be okay. We got you. I mean, it just, I wish I had a tissue. I should have known better. But it made me a little emotional because I mean, I've been in so many situations where I've been terrified and to have people that, you trust and maybe if you haven't been through something like that, folks, it might not register, but the safety, when you are so vulnerable, it's just beautiful. I so appreciate you sharing that story and how
Sure.
serendipitous that folks could show up for you, who you showed up for countless times. I'm positive.
it was amazing.
Wow. Do you mind telling us
Yeah.
a bit more what your course of treatment was like, how that impacted your ability? I mean, you're obviously very passionate about your career and how you help others in healthcare. Was that interrupted? Was that put on pause? Did you keep working? What did that look like?
Yeah. It was a beautiful question. It's going to be a real nuanced type of answer for
Great.
me to give you. I had to go out on disability. And so, there was no way, especially in the beginning, for me to continue working.
Yeah.
And then I had, I'll be honest, I had a lot of sequela. I joked that I went into cancer with no diagnosis, like ICD-10 codes. And
Yeah.
then after cancer, I joked that I inherited a lot of ICD-10 codes and one of almost every specialist. So I
Wow.
now come with the full medical team. If you just look at my chart on paper, it will be it's very disconnected to just seeing me in person and talking to me because it looks
Yes.
like a whole different set of circumstances.
I bet.
So in regards to working, I had to go out on disability, had to do radiation for the back mass, which is now gone. Those
Really?
masses from myeloma generally respond really well to radiation. So that's great. So,
Great.
so I had radiation, aggressive chemo, infusion and oral, along
Okay.
with steroids, oral steroids,
Ugh.
and then bone marrow transplant. But it was autologous. So meaning, they slammed me into remission, then they harvested my own stem cells once I was in remission. I still have enough stem cells frozen somewhere in the UCSD system. If I need a second bone marrow transplant, I have enough for a second one. But I went through the bone marrow transplant. It's very anticlimactic. Everybody's like, oh, it's a bone marrow transplant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy. I mean, it is crazy, but not in the way that you think. I just showed up to the infusion center, got the pre transplant chemo, which that's the harsh chemo. So
Yeah.
most myeloma chemos don't make you lose your hair or other things, but the pre-transplant chemo before you get a bone marrow transplant does. And so, it's about a 30-minute infusion. I remember they told me I need to chew on as much ice as I can and swallow it to help reduce like the stomatitis and GI upset and irritation. And so, do you think that's not very hard until you're like 3 minutes in and everything is freezing in your mouth and you're like,
Yeah.
wait, I've got 27 more minutes of this. Okay. So, sat there, kind of grinned and bear it, just kept the ice in. I'm like, I better do what they say because I do not want to have, something bad happen.
Yeah.
And then they admit you to the hospital a couple of days later, wait for your counts, to kind of disappear and go to zero, and then give you back your stem cells. And so they thaw them out. It smells like creamed corn. It actually does smell like creamed corn when they tell you that. It's a very interesting. I smell creamed corn. I have a lot of thoughts about that. What I smell. I'm not really trying to do creamed corn anymore. That goes against my southern roots, but I'm like, yeah, it reminds me of some things too much. Yeah, I'm like, no.
That's so
And actually bone marrow, because that's all the thing in restaurants, like bone marrow.
right.
I'm like, no, I think I've had enough issues with bone marrow. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to eat bone marrow. No
Thanks, but
offense to
no
anyone
thanks.
that does, but
Yeah.
those are my two no-goes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was,
Wow.
it was very anticlimactic because it's like, oh, that's it. It's just like literally a slow drip kind of infusion of your stem cells. But, that was a rough time. A lot of GI. I mean, at the point where the midway point, because I was hospitalized for a couple of weeks with the bone marrow transplant, my throat and esophagus were so raw and sore that like swallowing my own spit felt like glass shards. And there's just no amount of like a pain pump or pain that
Right.
medicine that will actually kill that pain. And so other than just zonking you out, but it doesn't actually help the pain. So really hit my GI system hard. But, along the lines with, not to get sidetracked, with the job and with having to go out, I would say that, the first year I was really in just fight or flight and just trying to get better. And you just want to live at that point, right? I just need to do everything that everybody's telling me I need to do because I don't want to check out early. I want to be
Yes.
here for my kids and my partner, my family and my patients. Like
Yeah.
I want to get back to my life and my normal life. But I had to understand I was never going to get back to my life as it was before that. Like normal has now been redefined, right? So
Yeah.
but in the time that I was off work, because I was off work for an extended period of time because of other things that happened from the cancer,
Of course.
I'd always really defined myself in how good a practitioner I was, how well I took care of other people. I was very much driven by my profession and defined myself, my self esteem by my profession.
Yep.
And so when that was taken away, and I was no longer a nurse practitioner. I was no longer taking care of people. In fact, like my partner was now taking care of me. My kids were taking care of me. Other people were taking care of me. You know, you lose your identity. And I lost mine. I'll be really
Right.
honest. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
I absolutely lost who I was
Yep.
because all of a sudden I'm not feeling productive and I'm not feeling like I'm making a difference in society and I'm not feeling like I'm able to take care of people.
Yeah.
So, it was very much a humbling experience to go through because then I had to really face the fact that I define my self-worth on the basis of my deeds and what I was doing
Right.
and how well I was doing it. And you can't define your self-worth just in those terms.
Yes.
Like for me, I need to feel worthy, right? And worthy of love and worthy of happiness and worthy of good things in life apart from professionally. So, that was not a quick lesson for me to learn. It took me a while. It took me a while to accept things. I tell people all the time, it's okay if you can't accept things right away. In fact, I think that's probably if you accept things right away, I would say that's more the exception than the rule.
Yeah.
Because acceptance is hard. It's
Right.
hard to like accept the fact that, okay, my life is going to look different now. It already looks different. And, it's okay sometimes to just say, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way around it. I don't think anybody, would wake up and be like, "Hey, I'd like to have cystic fibrosis. I'd like to get a cancer diagnosis. I'd
Right.
like to have this chronic disease or that chronic
Right.
disease." I
Yeah.
don't think that, any of us want that. But yeah, the lessons learned in that space, kind of stripped of who I was as a person professionally, definitely was an interesting time.
Have you ever thought about having multiple streams of income? Instead of relying on just one stream of income where you're trading your time for money, how would you like to free up more of your time and live a more abundant life? As a listener of the show, you're invited to attend one of our upcoming trainings where I'll give you an inside look into how you can add passive income and get all the other perks of recession-resistant real estate investing without the headaches of being a landlord. I'll also be sharing some hidden mistakes to avoid and the criteria I personally look for when evaluating potential investment opportunities. To reserve your seat for free, go to sylviscapital.com/webinar. Again, that special link to reserve your seat for free is sylviscapital.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the training. And now back to the show. So relatable. I was on disability for 3.5 years, and it just makes me think back, when I was too sick to work and how driven I was and how much I loved to
Sure.
contribute. And I'm sure all of this sounds very familiar. And that when you no longer have that area of your life to bring you meaning and definition and all of that, what are you left with? But the exciting news is, and I'd love to hear more of kind of how you define yourself and identify now, but the exciting news is you get to remold that if you're willing to kind of do that work and, decide, what makes you worthy and what your, how you see yourself kind of as a person. How did that change for you? I'd love to hear kind of what you define as your worth now.
Yes. Well, a lot of therapy later,
Yeah.
as I'm sure, a lot of us. I'm a
So
big
important.
therapy fan,
Oh,
definitely
of
important.
course.
Even if you're not going through a chronic health condition, I think it's just a good thing to do in general.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, abundance living, like for me, it's different things like staying present, focusing on my peace, focusing on relationships that bring you peace and that bring you happiness, making sure you've got appropriate like boundaries. I historically also have just not had great boundaries.
Mm,
I would just say yes all the time and I'd rarely say no, even
yeah.
if I wanted to say no. You know, I'd feel guilty for taking too much time off work, feel guilty
Mm,
for not showing up for somebody, even if it's at the detriment of myself.
mm,
And so after that, like when I'm looking at all these things and trying to redefine who I am as a person in the absence of being a nurse practitioner and working right now,
yeah.
you know, those were the things that I came to. Like, really, we all, Amy, just want to be as human beings, just want to be loved, heard, and understood, right? Patients, that's what they want. It's relationships. For me, I'm a relationship person. That's what it boils down to is how you show up for yourself first, and then how you show up for other people, because that's what people are going to remember when you're gone. They're not going to remember how much money you had or the material things that you had,
Yeah.
right? They're going to remember when you interacted with them and they saw you, how did you make them feel?
Wow.
Did they feel loved? Did they feel seen? Did they feel heard? Did they feel cared for? Or did they feel pushed aside, not understood, not heard? The converse. So for me, like, it was a big gray area. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it was amazing. And, I could spin it like cancer was amazing and it taught me all these great lessons. I mean, it did. I wouldn't wish to have it. I wouldn't say, yeah, if I couldn't go back and change it, I absolutely would. I don't want any piece of it. But did I learn some really tough lessons? I did. Did it make me a better person? Yes. Did it make me a better healthcare provider? Yes. And I already felt pretty good at being empathetic and compassionate and listening to folks, but it gave me a whole other levels deeper than that. Even just, I'm sure that your listeners, healthcare providers will say, hey, oh yeah, you're going to have that little procedure. It's just going to be a little prick, just a little poke, just a little pain, and then it'll be okay, right? Then you're going to be fine. That word hasn't come out of my mouth since I came back to work, because it's not just a little pinch, it's not just a little poke. It doesn't feel good. And some of the things are going to hurt, right? So for me too, like honesty with my own self, but then transitioning that honesty to, it's okay. I think we try to spare patients and we don't want to scare them. You have to have this done, right?
Of course.
But really, I think just having an honest conversation and going, look, I know it sucks.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to have this done. It's probably not going to feel great and it's going to hurt. And there's no way about it. But we
Yep.
can manage the pain during, we can manage it after, we can
Yeah.
figure out a way forward, right?
Yeah.
And I think that people appreciate that honest, direct conversation as opposed to, because what you're not trying to do is brush folks off. But when they say, well, I'm kind of worried about having this biopsy, it's not going to be a big deal. It'll be okay. It's very dismissive. And so having sat on the other side of it, I see now it's not meant to be, but it still lands that way.
Yeah.
And intention doesn't really matter if it lands the same way, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of, you got to watch that. So yeah, I guess that's my verbose answer
I
in
love
that
it.
time period between diagnosis, being off work, and then coming back to work. And I would say, honestly, I was really super nervous to come back to work.
That was going to be my next question. What did that
Yeah.
feel like for you? I'm really curious.
I was really anxious, and
Okay.
I'm not someone that really battles with a lot of anxiety,
Uh-huh.
thankfully, but I was really anxious because I'd been out of the game for a number of years and had been on disability and just been trying to focus on me and take care of my health. And so there were questions, right? For me, I was worried if I go back to work, I had to guess I'm going to be a little rusty. So it's going to take me just a second to kind of get back in the groove of things. But I also didn't go back just in a part-time manner. I literally was off and then just went back full time, full
Yeah.
swing.
Yeah.
And then in the back of my head, it was like, what if something happens again? And what if I get sick? And as you know, with disability, you have to work for at least a year once you come off disability before you can even, like, if something additionally bad were to happen, it's got to be at least a year before you can apply for another disability. So
Yep.
in my mind, trying to be positive and optimistic, but ultimately in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if something happens? What if the cancer comes out of remission?
Right.
What if I was running through any number of scenarios in my head, and what if it's under a year? And
Yep.
I'll have to try to just figure it out and work because I can't go back on disability for a year. And then, what happens? Then I take this job and then I have to leave. What if I'm not good at it anymore? What if cancer has like really just changed like my composition? And what if
Yeah.
I'm just like, what if I can't handle it? So I had all of that self-doubt, anxiety, nerves, surrounding coming back to work. Now, granted, I was so lucky, Amy, to come back to work with my same team here at UCSD. So, really, I'm incredibly blessed, I'll
Oh,
tell you. And my team is amazing. Our Center for Transplantation is amazing. My lung transplant team, like, shout out to them.
yeah.
They're all amazing colleagues. So,
Great.
that was wonderful to come back to, but I still had a lot of mixed emotions coming back because I just was worried I wasn't going to be able to handle it.
I can't imagine. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And all things, yeah, everything you'd been through, how you changed and grown as a person, the trauma of just trying to survive. And like you said, you didn't want to check out early and going back and taking care of others, knowing what you knew, what you had gone through. It's just a really, really heavy thing. Was there any part of you that was kind of excited to return to a new normal or get back in the saddle and not just focus on, kind of the big C word that was, I would imagine, was really all encompassing for those number of years?
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of equal parts, all
Okay.
that fear
Yeah.
and then excitement. I
Mhm.
was because returning back to work for me was like a symbol of some normalcy returning,
Yeah.
right? Like I had this little detour I didn't plan on, and that's okay. Life throws
Right.
you those curveballs. But then coming back to work, yes, felt like coming home, felt
Mm.
like getting back realigned to my purpose, to my calling, being able to once again step into a position in a role where I can help, even in some small way, make somebody else's life better
Yeah.
and at least give them the comfort that folks gave me, such as I know it's bad right now, but when I say I've got you, right? And I
Mm.
hear you.
Yep.
And again,
Yeah.
you know, I think just for me, I understand what it's like to be in that position now and wait on that phone call for the news and wait on that office visit when you know you're going to discuss some really heavy things,
Yes.
having appointments delayed and rescheduled, and then anxiety around, well, now it's 4 weeks out instead of two. And am I going to be okay? So I understand those nuances now better than I did. And so looking at patients and patient care and interacting, like, again, sometimes patients, they want your medical expertise. They want to know that you know what you're doing and you're taking care of them medically. But really, ultimately, again, it comes back to that relationship word.
Yes.
Sometimes you just want to be heard and you just want to be seen and you just want somebody to say, you know what? Yeah, Amy, this sucks. I wish it was different.
Yep. Yep.
I wish this hadn't happened to you. I wish you weren't going through this, but you are. And all I can tell you is I'm gonna sit here with you through it. I'm
Yes.
gonna be here with you through it.
Yes.
And so that's the most powerful thing. Whether you're dealing with a chronic illness or anything else, our relationships with other people and how we show up for them, super powerful across the board and across the industry.
Beautifully said. How people treat you and your relationships are medicine. I'll die on that hill. Yeah.
I'll die with you on that
Yeah.
hill. Yes.
Yes.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. The skills, the expertise, the experience all very much matter. But yeah, knowing that someone
Oh,
cares about you and you're not alone, and that emotional component, even though it's a soft skill and maybe not isn't treated in, a master's program or medical school, maybe it's not taught as much as some of the other things, can make a world of a difference. And Tara, I hate that you had to go through what you went through, but I'm just so grateful for how you show up, or I can't imagine how you show up for patients, for your partner, for your kiddos, for everyone around you, that just feels your warmth and your love and how much you care about other people. I just really, really impressive. I'm so grateful for you sharing your story with us today.
yeah. No, thank you. I mean, it's been a pleasure, honestly. I enjoy sharing.
Yeah.
And if any small piece of this, resonates as reason I'm sure you do the podcast.
Yep.
If any small part of it helps somebody feel less alone or less scared or less afraid or more seen, then I'll do a million podcasts, one every day, to talk about any number of things. I guess, kind of in ending, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, to folks that might be listening to us have this conversation, when it comes to abundance, I think in life, it's okay to change your definition. So, I kind of want to tell folks it's okay. Abundance can mean different things to you at different points in your life, and it's going to be shaded by your experiences and what you go through. And that's okay. That's actually great. I would say, stop waiting for life to be perfect before you, let yourself feel happiness, before you let yourself feel loved. Protect your peace at all costs. Invest in those relationships and those people that make you feel seen and loved and understood and heard and protected, because your energy is valuable and you don't want to just give it away. If you don't want to let the energy vampires come and take it away from you. So, like, we talked about earlier, just having boundaries, taking care of yourself. For me, that was just learning. It's important to me and I love taking care of other people. I can't do that unless I take care of me and make sure I'm good first. So, doing that first, it's not selfish. You're not being self-centered. It's not a negative. You just got to take care of you first. And then you can absolutely be there and take care of other people. But those would be, I would say, kind of throughout our conversation, that's just how I've redefined abundance in my life and just being present. It's cliche. We don't know. Time is not guaranteed. So, at the end of the day, just being present and enjoying those ordinary moments. Because when you're facing your own mortality and something bad happens, you look back and you realize literally, like I looked back at my time, at my life previous to getting sick, and all of those like just ordinary things, just having dinner with the family or going to the beach, right? Hanging out, going to a great concert. They're not really ordinary. That's really the meat and what makes up the journey, right? It's not necessarily the destination. It's all about the little things along the way. So for me, I wish I didn't have cancer. I wish it had not have happened. I would go back and change it if I could. However, I did learn some really like valuable lessons and learn some really valuable lessons mainly about myself and how I need to show up for myself before I show up for others. So I hope in some small way that's helpful.
Oh, big time, big time. I hate that we have to draw this to a close, but I'm sure folks are going to want to reach out to you and be
Of
in
course.
touch in some way. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
You know, LinkedIn is great. So if
Okay.
anyone wants to connect on LinkedIn, that's wonderful. I also shared my email address with you, Amy. So I'm happy with the episode if you can post that so folks can reach out to me via email as well. That's probably the two best ways is LinkedIn and email.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again. I'm so glad to hear that you're doing well. And
Yes.
I'm so encouraged and inspired by, I know that can be a little dicey in the chronic disease community, but I hope you take it in the right way. I'm really grateful that you shared your story and just amazed by what you've been able to do and how many people you've been able to help despite what you've gone through. Thank you again.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed talking to you this morning, Amy. So thank you again.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We're excited to see you on the next episode and reach out to Tara and make sure to connect. All right, everyone. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Sylvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.